Ooh, the first moon of 2026 has not come to disappoint. Okay, so this full moon is it's a moon of reclamation. It's a deeply restorative moon. And I know that it might not necessarily feel that way because everything that has been built upon anything that isn't in alignment with where you are right now on your journey back home to yourself has to come down. So a lot of things are falling into shambles, especially materially, right? And so it doesn't necessarily feel like things are coming together, but we're still in, many of us are still in that phase where things are falling apart because things are simultaneously behind the scenes making the way into proper positioning now too. So the first full moon of 2026, astrologically, it's happening in the sign of Cancer. Astronomically, if you look at the sky right now, if you use one of those apps, you're going to see that the moon is actually in Gemini. The way I'm going to read it through the astrological chart, but bear in mind also that we are moving into true sky astrology, what I would call true sky astrology. But as we move, the original astrology still holds weight, only because we as a collective have still pivoted ourselves towards turning our attention to that energy and what we put our attention to, because that's how powerful we are and that's how we're actually engineered on the earth. What we put our attention to comes into existence. So in other words, whether you're looking at this as the full moon in Gemini or the full moon in Cancer, you're right and you're right, because there's kind of an overlapping of energies now as we come back into proper alignment with all things, including the proper movement of the celestial bodies. Okay, so my name is Solara. I'm here to do what I call a Tarotstrology Ascension report for the full moon in Cancer, or Gemini, right? And I am not a traditional astrologer. I have my own system called Tarotstrology that through which I use the chart to show me the energy of what is occurring in the skies. But I actually read it through the lens of astrology, tarot, numerology, and I also channel the planets and the luminaries selectively. Okay, so if you are a stickler for certain schools of astrological thought and the presentation of that information in that way, I might not be for you, and that's fine. You are welcome here if you are in alignment with my frequency. And with that, let's get started. So the full moon, I'm gonna go forward and continue calling it the full moon in Cancer because that's what I'm looking at, right? And if there are Gemini themes that want to come through to be spoken on, I'll speak on those too. But if they're really of that much significance, they're going to come through the channeled message or the numerology. It won't be skipped. Okay, so we've got another 13-degree full moon. So the full moons moved into 13-degree state in November the 5th, 2025, with the full moon in Taurus was the first moon that occurred at 13 degrees that we've had successive full moons since. So full moon in Taurus, full moon in Gemini, we have the full moon in Cancer happening at 13 degrees, and next month we have the full moon in Leo happening at 13 degrees, and then we're going to move into the 12 degrees. So full moon in Virgo the following month will be at 12 degrees, breaking the 13-degree streak. So Taurus, Gemini, that's 4 full moons at 13 degrees. That's 4-4 energy right there. Okay, so the mere fact that we have the 4 full moons and the 4 new moons happening at the same degrees shows us 4 times, shows us that something is being established, a foundation is being set. Okay, so I say that because the new moons are also have also been following that numerical patterning of every single month. The past few new moons have been occurring at 28 degrees, which is important because the 28-degree mark is a degree of Cancer. So when you're dealing with the number 4, and you're dealing also with Cancer energy, which is the ruler of the collective 4th house, you are dealing with foundational energies upon which cycles, timelines, material realities are built. Okay, so full moon in Cancer occurring at 13 degrees, a moon of restoration and reclamation. Why is this moon so powerful? Well, for one thing, it's occurring at the mark of the fixed star of Sirius. So we have the full moon in Cancer conjuncting Sirius. And for those of you who might not be aware, the way I see the fixed star of Sirius is that anywhere from around 11 to 17 degrees of Cancer is fixed star of Sirius conjunction area. And why is that? Well, in conventional astrology, they say that Sirius occurs at the 14-degree mark of Cancer. But the thing about it is that even though the fixed stars are fixed, it doesn't mean that they haven't moved position over time with the skies, which means that they move nominal amounts to the point where at a certain point they will shift into a lower or a higher degree. And so for that reason, I know it's easy to say it's 14 degrees, but the skies are not static. They're not stagnant. They're alive, they're vital, they're living, they're evolving too. And so for me, I take that into account with what Sirius's true position is. And I consider Sirius to be anywhere from 11 to 17 degrees of Cancer. You don't have to agree with me. It's all right. So the moon is conjuncting Sirius, and because of all of the Capricorn energy we have a lot of opposition to this energy. Well, opposition is what they say in astrology. I don't get down with that either. I believe the sister signs work together. I don't believe there's opposition. I believe even the opposition or the resistance is there for the purpose of evolution, ascension, however you want to, explain it, coming into higher levels of harmonic resonance. They help each other. They are the polarities that are needed for something to be whole. Okay, so let's get into this. We've got the sun in Capricorn at 13 degrees. We've got the moon in Cancer at 13 degrees. We've got 13 energy. 13 is an auspicious number, right? We're going to get into that now too. 13 is an auspicious number for a few reasons, okay? We'll break down every angle of the number 13, how I have come to know it, right? So 13, astrologically, it is a degree of Aries, okay? Aries is the sign of the zodiac that connects us with our source encoded identity, but it also connects us with that point where we begin to self-differentiate and become who we are in our truth as source encoded fractals or emanations of source, right? Because we're all different. We're all designed for different functions and different purposes, and it's through Aries that realization is anchored into us. Our I am truth is what I call it. So Aries is also a sign that activates something new into momentum and into movement. And it also kind of is a protector of something, of systems. So for example, the easiest way for me to explain this with Aries energy is within your chakra system, if you abide by the 7 chakra system, Aries energy rules over your crown and your root. So in other words, it is like a bookending protection mechanism that holds the entire chakra system into place. It also connects you to your soul star, but that's a different story, right? So Aries energy is about the instigating of something new in order for a new momentum to begin. It's when fire has been struck. Aries is Ace of Wands, it's cardinal fire, it's a beginning, right? And Aries energy is also about protecting the container of the new beginning so that the beginning can become something of substance. And Aries provides that container through which that thing can grow, Okay? So 13 degrees is Aries energy astrologically. In terms of the tarot, 13 connects us to the death card, which is the card of Scorpio. So very powerful. 13 degrees is very powerful Mars energy, which is telling us a lot. Because what does Mars energy come to do? Mars energy comes to instigate change. You can't have a new cycle begin without the instigation of something that breaks the homeostasis of the old cycle so something new can be born. That's what Mars is. Mars is also a protector, a divine masculine protector energy. So protects what it is that the feminine is growing and birthing and creating. Hence, again, you know, with that Aries container energy, protecting the new thing that's coming forth, protecting the creation. That's also emblematic of Mars energy. Okay, so both Aries and Scorpio are ruled by Mars. Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto, right? So we've got that energy, right? The death card. 13 is a number that is quite, there's a lot of stigma around it in the false matrix, and that was on purpose. That was to create fear around it so that you wouldn't tap into the beauty and the mysticism of what 13 actually means. Now, 13 is a creational number that connects us to divine feminine flow and harmony and balance in creation. And you can even see this through geometry, right? You can see this through how shapes are formed. Because if you look at how a shape moves through its evolution in increasing in sides. So for example, the first shape would have to have 3 sides. That's a triangle, that's the number 3. If you look at how a shape changes when it becomes 4-sided, it's a square, 5-sided pentagon, and so on and so forth. The difference in shapes and sides allows for energy to flow and to stop in different ways. So even number-sided shapes, or even numbers in general, in terms of energy, are there to establish something and oftentimes put a stop to it or slow down the flow of it. Okay? Odd numbers are to keep things flowing and cycling and moving through. Now, by the time you get to a 13-sided shape, technically in geometry, that becomes a sphere. It becomes, a 3D circular format. And this is one of the most stable formats when you're dealing with energy, is that sphere shape. It's where you are actually able to begin to create worlds, right? So the number 13 is a number of creation of worlds. Okay, so think about what that means in terms of the fact that this is the 3rd full moon with that 13-13 sequence, and where we are also in ascension. Okay, so what else? 13 is also said to be the number of the Divine Mother. Technically, we have 13 moon cycles every year, and we should have 13 signs of the zodiac, but they kind of oft Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus will be coming back. But when things are in proper flow on the planet, it flows in accordance with divine feminine creational principles of harmonic resonance. And 13 is a number that upholds the harmonic resonance that is possible for true creation. This is why in the false matrix they made 12 a sacred number, because 12 stops you at the point of becoming a creator and keeps you in the realm of being a manifester. And there's a difference, because as a creational being, you have a source encoded creational being. You have the ability to create, you have the ability to create ex nihilo, technically. You have the ability to create. And when I say ex nihilo, there's always something that you're pulling from, but you're not pulling from something or someone else. You're pulling from your own cosmic design and the cosmic energies that allow for you to create something uniquely your own, right? And that's what it is to be a creator being, to call things into existence that once didn't exist, right? Manifestation is to call something into existence based upon templates and things that are already in existence. It's a replication process. True creation isn't replication. Okay? In the false matrix, we were turned into beings we were designed to replicate. We were designed to be in uniformity. This is what all their systems were for. I was having a conversation just, this evening with my son about uniforms, right? So school uniforms, especially, because like I grew up in the UK schooling system. My kids were in the UK schooling system. And in the UK, they're very big. They're sticklers for uniforms. You're not going to find a plain clothes school in England unless it's a specialist school in some way, shape, or form, right? Like like Montessori-based learning, etc. But all of their other educational institutions are huge sticklers for the uniform design. And this is where a lot of like the private schools globally have gotten their inspiration from with uniform too. But uniform is about keeping everyone the same. And in England, they're huge sticklers for that, to the point where it's like when my kids were at their school, for example, they would swim. And in some schools, especially like American schools with uniform, for example, right? They might say to you, okay, you need, in order to stay up to uniform code, you need a black swimming suit. You need a navy swimming suit, right? A one-piece swimming suit. At my children's school, there was a specific swimming suit that they were supposed to wear. Everyone was supposed to wear that swimming suit. Everyone was supposed to wear the same coat. They didn't even have autonomy with their outerwear, right? And that's to keep everyone the same. And yes, you can argue there are advantages to that. There are. I went through school in uniform, and when I went to school in America, I didn't have a uniform. And the luxury of having a uniform is that you never have to fucking think about what you're going to put on any given day. It's already decided for you. That's one thing you don't have to think about, right? The other wonderful thing I can say about schools, my schooling experience in the UK versus America, because we had uniforms, was no one was focused on what everyone else was wearing in terms of keeping up with the styles, the trends, the designers, the labels. There was no ostracizing because everyone was wearing the same thing. The most we could like get unique and style up our uniform was, with our shoes. And so we went to big efforts to like get shoes that were really unique, in school. But that was like it. And it wasn't a competitive factor. It was more like a self-expressive thing, right? But to get back to the point, uniforms are designed to make everyone the same, okay? And they do this very much on purpose in the schooling system, not only with uniforms, but even in the way they teach you and the way they test you, right? So you're not allowed to think outside of the proverbial box that they've put you in, because when you think outside of that box, then you get a fat zero, right? You must answer the question not only with the answer they want, but in the way they want. And that's what the testing, the whole testing thing is about, right? Okay, which is why so many people who are lateral thinkers and are not easily programmed or conditioned into the box, we don't do well with those tests. And then they want to denigrate us and make it seem as if we're failures or we're stupid, when really, okay, we won't go there right now. The point is, everything in the false matrix was to make everybody the same, or to put everyone in a box that could be ticked. And when you do that, you drown out the ability for us to be creators. You drown out the ability for us to be inspired and to bring that inspiration into action from our own source code. So the fact that these full moons have been occurring at 13 degrees, it shows the death of that false uniformity, but it also shows, because death is death, Scorpio is death and rebirth, it also shows us the birthing of the new creational order that's coming back into play through the divine feminine principles of not only harmonic resonance, but also in embracing our own uniqueness and divine purpose. The Divine Mother is a big promoter of us walking in our purpose and our uniqueness, and she rewards us for doing so. She rewards us for doing so, right? So it's like when you are a mother and you have many children, you're not trying to make all your children the same. If you love your children, at least, then you are concerned with finding the gifts, the resources allotted to each child, and not trying to get them to walk a cookie cutter path altogether, right? So the false matrix liked to get us all to walk a path together because it created identity crisis and confusion. And what is the sign of the zodiac that likes to break through fucking identity crises? Well, if it isn't Aries, that 13-degree energy. So there's a lot happening here. Now, another really big thing happening with this moon is that, like I said, it's conjuncting the fixed star of Sirius. Now, Sirius, Sirius, let's get into Sirius. Excuse me if I talk too much about this stuff. I am passionate about this. Okay, so Sirius is a fixed star that occurs, like I said, anywhere from the 11 to 17 degree of Cancer. Now, the way the planetary grids work is very interesting because Sirius plays a huge part in the translation of cosmic energies onto the Earth. Okay, so when the sun moves into the sign of Cancer in the third week of June, we have what we call June solstice, summer solstice if you're in the northern hemisphere, winter solstice if you're in the southern hemisphere. The June solstice is when the sun reaches its highest point of ascension in the northern hemisphere before beginning its descension and waning for the northern hemisphere, but waxing for the southern hemisphere, because now it's coming down into the southern hemisphere, until we get to the December solstice, winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, summer solstice in the southern hemisphere, the December solstice where the sun is at its lowest point of descension when the sun moves into Capricorn. And then after 3 days, it changes direction and begins its waxing phase up into the northern hemisphere again. When we have the equinoxes in March and September, that's when the sun is at an equal point on its arc, meaning that we experience it in the northern and southern hemisphere as having pretty much what we would call equal days of light and darkness. Okay, why is this important? Because the solstice initiates the June solstice, summer solstice in the north hemisphere, instigates a huge opening of the Sirius portal. And the opening of the Sirius portal is actually what heralds in what we call the galactic New Year. So Sirius pours out these codes that the gate begins to open as the sun enters into Cancer around June 21st or 22nd, right? When the sun enters Cancer, the gate to the Sirius activations begin to open. As the sun gets closer and closer and comes into conjunction with Sirius, the gate opens all the way and the outpouring of the activations begin. And it moves right through Cancer season. It reaches its pinnacle of outpouring through what we call the Lion's Gate portal, the 8-8 portal. And it begins to shut down as we close out Leo season. And I believe that the fixed star of Regulus is actually the gate that closes the Sirius downpour and the activations, right? what is Sirius pouring onto the planet? Because there's a lot of misconception around that. People seem to be very frivolous with these energies and seem to think that the codes that are coming through are so you can live your best life, no matter what that life might look like, right? But Sirius is actually a star that is connected to many cosmic gateways. Many constellations and star systems have gateways that connect to Sirius. So when Sirius is pouring through activations, Sirius is the gateway, but it's not the only star system that is contributing to the activations coming through. But what Sirius is, it is a star that upholds certain cosmic laws. And it's very much tied to the solar codes that allow for lawful balance and harmony to be not only on the planet, but for us on a personal level, right? And Sirius is also a star that's deeply connected to the waters, the cosmic waters and the waters of the earth. So Sirius activations are literally there to recode the waters also. This is why in the Egyptians, they called Sirius, they called it Sothis, right? And when they had the heliacal rising of Sirius, it was when it was said that the Nile flooded the banks. And that was synonymous with overflow and abundance. But what you're actually seeing also is how Sirius actually does expand and code waters. Now, why is this important? Well, water is how all things flow. It's how all things are transported interdimensionally, right? It's also for us as beings, we are made up of anywhere from, like, depending on age, etc., anywhere from like maybe 65 to almost 80% water if you're like a newborn baby or whatever. We are, a good amount of water. As an element, water connects to our emotional bodies. Our emotional bodies are the parts of us through which we birth creation. That's your dream life. That's your meditation. That's your imagination. That's your emotions. Everything comes through the waters. Nature will show you that. Everything is birthed. Everything that comes into fruition that is source encoded comes through the breaking of the waters. So it must first be coded in the waters before it comes into material reality. Okay, that's what growing in the womb is literally a coding of the waters. The waters are coded for the purpose of growing that being. Now, it's coded in a myriad of ways, through biology, hormones, etc., how the baby grows, but it's still the waters that code the growth of the child, not only physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally too, right? So when you're dealing with Cancerian energy, you're dealing with the waters of the womb. And when you're dealing with Sirius energy, you're dealing with the star that codes the waters for creation to come forth. So when we have those Sirius codes coming through in Cancer and Leo season, they're here to bring activations to the waters of the earth, but they're here to bring activations to our waters also. And what's the purpose of that? After we get activated with those Sirius codes, we go straight into Virgo season, which is hermit mode. And that is when we begin to do the deep clearing of what it is that those activations have brought forth in our own waters that must now be cleared. And why must they be cleared? Because we're not here to keep looping through the same scenarios. We're here to evolve. We're here to grow. And the activation of those codes are released into the earth and into us to bring us up to lawful coding in accordance with who we are and where we are on our soul's journey and our soul's path. And once upon a time on the earth, this is what determined where we were allowed to go, what we were allowed to be connected to, allotted to, and even if people were allowed to remain on the earth. Because There's a certain frequency that needs to be maintained, but there's also a certain moving through the requisite lessons that allow for you to grow on your evolutionary path to continue your journey here too. Okay, so Sirius is a star that codes the waters with law, with source law. And that law is brought through the sun, which is why in the 8-8 portal, the highest, the Lionsgate portal is the highest time of activation, because now those codes are being translated through solar energies. And they continue to be transported until you get to the December solstice gateway. And at that point is where things begin to be birthed based upon the 6 months of integration and clearing that the Sirius activations were supposed to provoke on the earth and in us. I hope you're with me. Okay, so Sirius is a star that brings in harmonic resonance by keeping things in balance and lawful equilibrium on the earth and through us. Okay, which is why they wanted to make it so frivolous. Like, oh, it's just about, I want to manifest $10,000. I'm going to use the 8-8 portal and the Lionsgate. No, it's not about that, hun. Not about that at all. Right? So the Christmas period is a huge time of activation and clearing and purging for the birthing of the material timelines that have been made possible through this Sirius code seeding that occurs in the Cancer. It's initiated through Cancer. It's initiated through Cancer, it's birthed through Capricorn. We even see this in the maps. This is why the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn are on either side of the equator, because those signs of the zodiac and what they mean, the connections that they have to the constellations, it's so important for how things are regulated on the earth and how things are materialized onto the earth. Okay, so this is a huge juncture with the full moon of rebirth, reclamation, and restoration, right? And huge because this is a moon where it's conjuncting Sirius, and therefore the sun, because it's at 13 degrees Capricorn, is technically in opposition, or technically it's shining a light from the other side while the full moon is fully blasting. So there's a lot of light energy that's occurring around Sirius for this full moon. Not to mention that Venus is at 12 degrees Capricorn and Mars is at 14 degrees Capricorn. So those two signs are also in some ways moving this Sirius energy from the opposite side, from Cancer. So huge shifting efforts to bring in the proper materialization of timelines in accordance with true coding as decided through the Sirius activations and really what we've done with them. In many ways, what's happening with the earth right now, it is a reflection of what it is we're doing with ourselves, but right now also the earth is reclaiming her waters, her grids. She's reclaiming those things for herself too, which is also allowing for us to do that for ourselves also. And this full moon is a huge convergence point where we really begin to be able to, you could also say like connect to the Edenic grids, which is very much, Gemini energy. Gemini energy, the full moon in Gemini was all about breaking down the mind control, MK Ultra technologies, templates, grids, tethers, hooks that had us binded to the false matrix in any way and therefore not able to access our divine contracts and our Edenic timelines, right? Okay, I'm going to breathe for a second. What's really interesting about this full moon also is that it's happening, both of them are happening at 1 minute. So literally the sun and the moon would have just moved in. So the 13 degree mark, the sun would have just moved into Capricorn, and the moon would have just moved into 13 degrees Cancer. They're both at 1 minute, 0-1. Why is this so interesting? Well, 0-1 is creation code also. It's binary. And not only that, but we are in a binary year. We're in a creation code year, because 2026, it breaks down to 10, right? So interestingly enough, also astrologically, the 10 is Capricorn energy. So we are in a Capricorn year, okay? In terms of tarot, the 10 is the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune, and to a lesser extent, the Magician and the Sun. But the main card would be the Wheel of Fortune, which is Jupiter energy. So the ruling planets of this year are Saturn and Jupiter. Now, why is that important too? Because Saturn and Jupiter are the planets of law. They're the planets of law. Okay, so when we're talking about creational law coming back into order because of Sirius and its codes, it's being backed also by what this year represents. So Saturn, as you probably know, Saturn is always the planet that most people think of when it comes to law, but Jupiter is the planet that carries out the law. So if Saturn enforces and says, this is what's going down, Jupiter says, okay, Saturn, let me go out then and give the notices and give the rewards and, you know, do whatever it is that begins to expand the field now for the law that you have proclaimed to come into existence. So people often think Jupiter is it's the planet of abundance and expansion. Yes and no. It is the planet of following through and upholding the law in the field. And yes, it means the expansion of the field, but the expansion of the field does not always translate to abundance. If you've been living unlawfully, then Jupiter also comes to bring forth the establishment of the field of correction that Saturn is bringing forth too. The planets aren't like, good or bad. They just are. They do what they're supposed to do within their function. Okay? They don't discriminate unless they're programmed through spell work and binding to do that. And even then, it's still using the same energy of their true function. Okay, so this year is a year brought to you. The sponsors for 2026 are Saturn and Jupiter. Okay, so yes, interesting, right? Because when you think about it also, next year, 2027, is also going to be another Saturn year. It's going to be a year that's sponsored by Saturn and Uranus, because it's the number 11, and also to some extent by Venus. So next year is Saturn, Uranus, and Venus. We won't get into that. We're jumping way ahead of ourselves. We're like 2 days into 2026. But this year is Saturn and Jupiter. So this is the year of not only correction, but correcting the field and bringing things into creational order. And this is what this full moon is setting off. Okay? And in many ways, the places that many people are going to feel this the most, and this isn't, I don't want to make this a collective story, except for the fact that there are certain signs of the zodiac that connect us with collective themes. And because you're dealing with Cancer energy, Cancer is the womb, Cancer is the foundation. Very specifically, it's the foundation of the emotional body and the emotional field, because that's what the womb is also. Your emotional body is a womb. Remember, all things are birthed through water. So your emotional body works like a womb in your energy field also, right? And what runs your emotional body physically, because you're also dealing with Capricorn energy, that's earth, that's physical, that's body, that's material, your nervous system. Your nervous system is what ultimately is the information that programs your emotional body, your emotional resonance, your ability to hold things emotionally, your ability to birth things emotionally. It's all dependent upon your nervous system, right? So your nervous system is deeply connected to Cancerian energy. So what's been occurring as we've been moving towards this full moon, there's been a lot of nervous system clearing, purging, recalibration. Okay, it was kicked off through the full moon in Gemini because your nervous system is also, of course, connected to your mental body. And Gemini is how you begin to connect with your infinite mind. And through using Gemini energy nefariously, the false matrix used it for mind control to imprison you through your mind in yourself and to fragment you in doing so. That's what mind control or MK Ultra is. It's locking you out of yourself and making you afraid to go into certain areas of yourself that you are required to go into to come back into wholeness, right? And so that's an aspect of nervous system control. That's the programming of the nervous system against itself through mind fuckery. And then the record of that fuckery plays itself out in the emotional body. So this is why, if you've been experiencing, especially for the past month or so, a lot of clearing from the body, a lot of clearing from the emotional, mental fields that had to do with regulation of the nervous system, these planetary energies have actually been here trying to assist you in purging for the purpose of helping you to reclaim the fullness of your own mental body, your own emotional body, and your own nervous system for what it actually is here for. Because a regulated nervous system is able to hold what it is you're supposed to hold in source encoded alignment, right? Okay. Let's get into the tarots because we're like 40 minutes in. I probably am not going to go into all of this. I'm just going to go where I want to go. So, the sun in Capricorn at 13 degrees, that's the sun card. That is the devil. That is 13 degrees is the 3 of Pentacles. And yes, we've already said 13 is a degree of Aries. The moon in Cancer at 13 degrees, that's the moon card. Cancer is the chariot. When we're dealing with the chariot, we're dealing with light body. We're dealing with the code that allows for the light body to be in proper balance so that it can move in all directions that it's supposed to be able to move into in accordance with its source and cosmic code. In the false matrix, your light body was programmed into stall mode, which is why you were constantly looping, going around in circles. The way I like to describe it is like when a car falls on the roof and the wheels just keep turning. So technically that car feels like it's going somewhere, even if it's on its head and it's stuck and it's stalled, right? That's what they did to us through all the programming and the uniformity in the false matrix, making us all try to be the same or be like other people, be everything but who you actually fucking are. And most importantly, if you're a being of extreme potential and power divinely, please forget who the fuck you are and let me help you fuck up your mind so that you're not able to access those aspects of your power and yourself to put yourself fucking back together, right? Divine Mama says no. No more of that. No more of that. We're putting ourselves together like fucking Humpty Dumpty. And we're not sitting on their walls no more. Okay? No more. Alrighty. Okay, so the devil card. Let's talk about the devil a little bit because I feel like people get this energy a little bit wrong too. The devil is the card of Capricorn that connects us to our allegiance to the material. Okay, now, as a source law encoded being, everything on this earth was created for you to enjoy. Enjoy in accordance with law, you know, with the laws that protect you and protect the earth and protect her inhabitants, her animals. There are boundaries and structure that we're supposed to adhere by frequentially in order to have access to this bounty. Now, the devil is the card of how we relate to the material. Like I said, we are here to enjoy this. But what the false matrix did was it programmed you purely into your material settings. It made you override your emotional needs, your mental needs, and it made you forget who you are as a spiritual being on the spiritual planes. So it took away 3/4 of your truth. and told you to put all your energy towards one quarter. And it's actually not equal quarters, because the material reality is actually just a reflection of the sublimation of the spiritual, mental, and emotional planes. So the material reality, if you want to really break it down into percentage, makes up about 7% of reality. And the other 93% is in the etheric planes, mental planes, and emotional planes. And then the material planes is where all of that kind of plays out like a video of what's going on there. Yes? So the false matrix wanted you overly obsessed with the material. They made you have to struggle to survive, so that all you could think about was your survival. And because they lied to you and told you that, all those other aspects of yourself didn't exist, that was all you had to hold on to. So some of you are cosmologically the wealthiest beings on this planet, and you've been working and hustling and grinding to be given peanuts from your own inheritance, and you've been told, work harder if you want to, find yourself approved and to make more, while they steal and they run away with all of your shit, like Santa Claus. We won't get into that right now. We won't get into that whole Santa Claus being a thief story right now. We're past the Christmas season. Alrighty, so what's going on now? Well, we are trusting our nervous systems to do what they came here to do. We are trusting the Divine Mother. We are trusting the earth. We are trusting who we actually fucking are. 13, I am truth. I am presence, Aries energy. We are trusting in the power of our truth to bring into our fields what is source law encoded, as opposed to running around ourselves, chasing our tails, or like the Ouroboros, constantly eating our tails. That's an Ouroboros spell, by the way. The Ouroboros is a mystical, powerful symbol that has a purpose, but it's been misused in the false matrix, even I should say, especially so in spiritual circles, to continue the expansion of the karmic looping. Alrighty. Mercury in Capricorn at 2 degrees. We've got 4 planets. Well, we've got 3 planets and the sun, the luminary, the head honcho. We've got them in Capricorn, right? So Mercury in Capricorn at 2 degrees, Venus in Capricorn at 12 degrees, and Mars in Capricorn at 14 degrees, which means that we are heading right after this full moon into a Venus-Mars smooch fest, a Venus-Mars snogathon, because it seems that they probably will be meeting at the 14-degree mark. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm guessing through how fast Venus moves compared to Mars that they probably will be meeting at the 14-degree mark, if not the 15. But they will be meeting at some point, and they will be having a snogathon. They will be, in other words, materializing, because we're dealing with Capricorn. Capricorn is a sign of the zodiac that's all about materialization, hence the devil card that has to do with the material planes. Capricorn is about materialization onto the earth, right, from the other planes. So with Venus and Mars coming together for their smooch fest, it means that they're materializing something through their union in Capricorn, right? And I'm guessing it's a 14-degree mark, which would mean also, if it is, that would be a Taurus degree. So we're dealing with the divine endowment given to us from the Divine Mother. That's our true value. That's our true divine inheritance. It comes through Taurus, or the Taurus field, or your toroidal field. It comes through the sign of Taurus also. The Divine Mother as the provider that gives to you all the resources you need to thrive and enjoy your time here, because the truth of the matter, Taurus is ruled by Venus. The truth of the matter is you're here to enjoy your time on earth. Enjoy, and joy is source coded, right? Your ability to live in joy and produce timelines of joy is what allows the earth to remain in harmonic resonance also, which is why in the false matrix they wanted to introduce all of these narratives that they blew up and made it seem as if they were so praiseworthy of toiling and grinding. And we can also thank the Genesis book for that too, where they talk about where it said that when God dismisses Adam and Eve from the garden, he tells them that they're going to toil for everything. He punishes the woman, right? You're going to toil and labor. That wasn't source. That was the false matrix God enforcing this pattern of laboring for your worth, laboring for what is already yours, and more importantly, laboring for a pittance of what is yours while your true inheritance is squandered. Okay, so Venus and Mars coming together, these are the premier divine masculine and divine feminine planets coming into union to materialize something onto the planet. Okay, 14 is also the degree that connects us in the tarot to the Sagittarius card of the Temperance. This is about solar and water coding. When you're dealing with the Temperance card, you're dealing with the alchemy of fire and water, which is also source code coding the waters. Okay, source code coming in as fire or as light code to code the waters to bring things into harmonic resonance. That's actually what the Temperance card is, and that's what Sagittarius season is also about. Okay, we won't get into that because we're now in Capricorn season. Well, technically we're in Sagittarius season astronomically, right? So all of these themes are still overlapping. They're all happening congruently until we come to a place of harmonic resonance and people are ready to commit fully to truth. That's what we're on the journey to now. We're on the journey now to getting back to committing to the purity of truth. Okay, so we're being filtered, you could say, right now. Alrighty. Mercury in Capricorn at 2 degrees, that is the magician, the devil. The 2-degree mark is the 2 of Pentacles. So Mercury is speaking to us through this full moon about the balancing act, the balancing of something coming into the material. We're dealing with 2 degrees, that's a degree of Taurus again. Okay, 2 connects us to the high priestess. So these are things that have to do with the light body, the Taurus field, your divine endowment, your resources. You might not yet see them, but you might be receiving messages. Pay attention to the messages that are coming through very specifically about how you are to move in the receiving now of your true endowment and your true resources that align with Edenic code and source law. Don't fall into the trap of looking at what the false matrix is trying to tell you is still real. We're still dealing with this Wizard of Oz veil that actually everything that they've told you in the past that you believed in, it's actually already toppled down in all the other planes, and the material planes it's going to catch up rapidly as we choose to align with the truth of who we are and our lawful wealth and our lawful prosperity and our lawful value and even our lawful biology, because that's what you're dealing with also when you're dealing with the material planes, Taurus and Capricorn. Those things will come down faster and into material reality as we remain true to source and our source code, as opposed to what the material feedback of illusion is still trying to feed us right now. So Mercury's coming in to reprogram and reseed your mind with the truth of how you're supposed to move in your value in order to bring forth the materialization of these timelines. Now, Mercury at 2 degrees is happening at the 21st minute. 21, funnily enough, is also, it's connected to, well, it's a Sagittarian degree, but it's also connected to the World card in the tarot, which is Saturnian energy and Capricorn energy. So we're dealing with, again, the ending, the closing out. Mercury is teaching us how to close out the false material looping cycles. It's speaking to us through this full moon. If we have ears to hear, eyes to see, and hearts that are willing to be open enough to enter and overstand. Venus in Capricorn at 12 degrees. it's very interesting that Venus is showing up at 12 degrees while we have this 1313 proclamation coming through. And I did mention that 12 was where they wanted to stop us. So we would stay in manifestation loops instead of entering into creational, infinite spiral movement. Okay, so Venus is, there's something about this Venusian energy that is closing out this allegiance to the number 12. 12 is a Piscean degree. It connects us to the Hanged One. So it's also a number that deals with how we break out of a cycle based upon our ability to connect with source truth, or whether we stay looping in the cycle because we become blindsided, enamored, or put into fear by illusions. So there's something that Venus is materializing here that has to do, I feel like it's with the breaking of that, especially because we have Mars that's already moved through that 12 degree of Capricorn not too long ago. And Mars came in like, swords ablazing. Swords ablazing, fire, what are those things called? Those things that they fought with in medieval times, the batons full of fire, those things ablazing. That was Mars, right? And then we have Venus and Mars are going to be coming together in conjunction for that snogathon that I was mentioning before. Okay, Mars in Capricorn at 14 degrees. So Mars is the Tower card. So Mars is like burning shit down in the material planes that is not up to source code, right? So Mars in Capricorn at 14 degrees, that's the Tower, that's the Devil. The 14 degree mark is a degree of Taurus, as I've already mentioned, and 14 is the Temperance. Okay, so Mars is like, I feel like it's dispersing a lot of the solar fire and the stellar light that has already been coating the waters. It's dispersing it for it to be integrated now into the earth, for it to start to become solid, right? That's the Capricorn energy, to become material. So no longer the water, now the earth, now the birth, now the seeing it, feeling it, touching it, right? Okay, I think I'm going to end there. I will say quickly, though, that both of the nodes are at the 12 degree mark. So they're still moving through the second decan of Pisces and Virgo. This is the 9 of Cups and the 9 of Pentacles. So, whenever you're dealing with 9 energy, you're also dealing with Virgo energy. You're dealing with a Hermit. You're dealing with Sagittarius energy again, right? So it's interesting that the first full moon of this year, the nodes are at that 12 degree point because we're coming out of 2025, which was a number 9 year, right? And the number 9 year connected us to Virgo and Sagittarius, right? And so the nodes at the 12 degree mark are at the 9 of Cups for Pisces and the 9 of Pentacles. So we've got double 9 energy through the tarot. And then we've got that 12 degree energy that is in the tarot and the major arcana, that is, again, the Hanged One. So a real breaking point of illusion is what this full moon wants to bring us through. But what's going to be very important is having the nervous system that is able to contain and hold and integrate and anchor the truth and the level of power and #faith that it's going to take to get to the other side, get to the other side of the illusion, get to the other side of the false matrix. Right? So I think I'm going to end there. We're already almost an hour in. I hope that you've enjoyed your time with me. Yes, I am still in rest and recovery mode right now. If you would like to connect with me, I still am doing one-to-one services. I also am selectively working with people for 2026 readings, where we will look into your astrology chart, and we will also use a soul code astro oracle or the tarot deck to do a pull that we then connect into your chart to see what it is that's speaking through the cards and your chart. I'm not putting that on my Ko-Fi. If you are interested in that, please email me directly and we'll schedule that and book you in. I am doing a few, I probably will put this on my Ko-Fi at some point, but I will be doing a few more Tarotstrology one-to-one readings. And then I think come springtime, I'm going to be walking away from that for a minute. Tarotstrology full rebirth, where I go into your chart placement by placement, and I do what I did here. You know, I channel astrology, tarot, numerology, all of that stuff to soul map, to tell you the map of your soul through your astro chart. Okay, so I'll be taking a few more people up until probably April. That's going to be my cutoff time. I probably will only be doing like maybe 10 more of those total. So if you're interested in that, again, you can email me, solarahspeaks@proton.me. In my time away, I've been working on myself, and I've been, you know, doing a lot of decrees, personal decrees, a lot of personal decrees. But then I've also been publishing a few. Those are available on my Ko-Fi. So if you're not aware, I have released quite a few decrees in my time away, and you can find them at my Ko-Fi shop. I'll put the information for that link in the description box below. I think that's it for now. I will be back when I'm back. I'm now moving in alignment with my soul. So hopefully I'll see you for the new moon in Capricorn. That would be my intention right now, for as long as my own work on myself permits. If I don't, I always will, you know, post on the community board some kind of update on what's going on with the energies too. I also am getting ready to launch a new community offering. As some of you might know and some of you might not know, I closed down my platform, solarah.xyz, at the very end of October. On October 31st, I closed it down. And the reason for that was because it was a platform through which I didn't have full creative autonomy, because I'm not a tech head and I didn't really know how to run things there. So I am figuring out my way forward. And for those of you who were with me there, I did send you all an email. I hope that you received it. And we will be moving forward once I get the divine nod. I will be moving forward with the next chapter of my writing and my sharing, which is going to look very different from what I've done on, you know, previous platforms or on Substack. I'm really slowing down, and I am spending more time working on myself and working on the you know, the lands and the waters where I am traveling at this point. And if you would like to, you know, give towards my work that I'm doing here on the earth, I'm traveling now with my children, then you can do so through my Ko-Fi. I appreciate it. If you'd like to tip me or buy me a coffee, you can also do that directly through my Ko-Fi. I'll put all that information below. I thank you guys for all the ways you've supported me these past 3 years. It's been 3 years since January the 1st that I you know, Solarah Speaks started going out in the world more publicly. And I think it will be 3 years this May that I started Solarah Rises with these full moon and new moon Tarotstrology Ascension reports. So I want to thank all of you who have been true supporters on this path and on this journey. And yes, I will see you again when I see you, but check the community board, because I will be posting there new decrees, different offerings, and what is next. Okay, so until next time, be well.